For decades, scientists wondered when the first humans reached the Americas and how they survived the edge of a frozen continent. The mystery stayed open for most of the 20th century. Evidence appeared in fragments that never quite lined up. Stone tools were found in one location, and butchered bones were discovered in another. Dates argued with each other across different archaeological sites. The dominant story claimed people arrived late, about 13,000 years ago. This narrative said they rushed south through an ice-free corridor in Canada. It sounded tidy and felt complete to previous generations of researchers, but it never explained one stubborn fact that refused to go away. Humans appeared south of the massive ice sheets before that corridor was even open. The question refused to close for over 50 years. How did they get there, and what sustained them during the journey? The answer mattered because it was not just about routes on a map. It was about human capability. Could small Ice Age populations live off the Pacific coast? Could they cross water, harvest the sea, and move thousands of kilometers without farming? For a long time, no one could prove it. Coastal sites drown when sea levels rise. Shorelines from the Ice Age now sit far offshore and under deep water. The record looked broken on purpose. Then a different kind of evidence began to speak. It was not just tools or DNA at first. It was chemistry locked inside human bones. Now, new evidence has finally answered this question with numbers that do not argue. Scientists have closed the case. The first clue that the old story was wrong came from the dating of ancient sites. Archaeologists use radiocarbon dating to determine the age of organic materials. This method measures the decay of carbon-14, which is a radioactive isotope found in all living things. When an organism dies, it stops absorbing carbon, and the existing carbon-14 begins to disappear at a fixed rate. By measuring what remains, scientists can calculate exactly when a creature lived. For years, the oldest confirmed sites in North America belong to the Clovis culture. These people left distinct fluted stone points across the continent starting 13,000 years ago. Because no older tools were found, the Clovis first theory became the law of archaeology. It stated that humans waited for the glaciers to melt before entering the continent. But then excavations at Monte Verde in Chile changed the timeline entirely. Archaeologists found a settled campsite with wooden foundations and medicinal herbs. Radiocarbon dating proved the site was 14,500 years old. This date is 1,500 years older than the Clovis tools found in the north. It is also 1,500 years before the ice-free corridor in Canada was physically passable. The pieces of the puzzle did not fit. If the only path through the ice was closed, how did people reach the bottom of South America? To solve this, researchers turned to stable isotope analysis. This technique measures chemical signatures in bone collagen that act like a permanent food diary. Every time you eat, your body incorporates specific ratios of nitrogen and carbon from your diet into your skeleton. Scientists use a mass spectrometer to count these atoms. A mass spectrometer is a machine that sorts atoms by their weight to reveal their origin. Nitrogen isotopes, specifically nitrogen-15, increase as you move up the food chain. People who eat mostly land animals, like deer or mammoths, show a specific chemical signature. People who eat marine life, like seals, fish, and seaweed, show a much higher concentration of nitrogen-15. When scientists analyzed the earliest human remains in the Americas, the results were definitive. The chemistry proved these people were not big game hunters from the interior plains. They were maritime specialists. Their bones were built from the sea. This discovery connects findings from Oregon to Chile into one coherent timeline. The evidence shows they did not walk through the center of the continent. They moved along the Pacific Kelp Highway. The Kelp Highway was a massive ecological bridge that stretched from Asia to California. During the last ice age, sea levels were 400 feet lower than they are today. This exposed a vast coastal plain that is now underwater. This environment was rich in resources. Giant kelp forests provided habitat for fish, shellfish, and sea mammals. Because the water was near the freezing point, these kelp forests acted as a buffer against the waves. They created a calm, navigable path for people in small boats. This environment provided a consistent food source that land hunters lacked. In the interior of the continent, the ice-free corridor was a barren wasteland. Paleoecological models, which recreate past environments using pollen and soil samples, show the corridor lacked vegetation. It had no trees and no large animals until 12,700 years ago. It was an impossible path for a migrating family. Meanwhile, the coast was a garden of protein. This shift in understanding proves that the first Americans were skilled mariners, not just nomadic hunters. New evidence from Cooper's Ferry in Idaho has further solidified this timeline. In 2019, a team from Oregon State University found stone tools at the bottom of a deep pit. They were located beneath a layer of volcanic ash. Volcanic ash provides a smoking gun for dating because eruptions happen at a specific moment in time. Geologists can identify the chemical signature of the ash to know which volcano it came from. The ash at Cooper's Ferry came from an eruption 15,000 years ago. Anything found beneath that ash must be older than the eruption. The stone tools were found in the layers below. Radiocarbon dating of animal bones found with the tools returned a date of 16,000 years ago. This is 3,000 years older than the Clovis culture. This discovery pushed the human presence in the Americas back into the heart of the Ice Age. It showed that people were already established in the Pacific Northwest, while Canada was still buried under 2 miles of ice. Genetic analysis has now provided the final confirmation. This field uses DNA sequencing to map human ancestry by comparing genetic markers across generations. It works like a biological GPS. In 2010, scientists sequenced the first ancient genome from a site in Montana called Anzac 1. This was a young boy who lived 12,800 years ago. His DNA proved he was directly ancestral to modern indigenous populations in Central and South America. More importantly, his genes showed a split from Siberian populations that happened 20,000 years ago. This split occurred while humans were still in Beringia, the land bridge that once connected Russia and Alaska. The DNA evidence confirms that humans were stuck in Alaska for thousands of years by the ice, but as soon as the coastal ice began to retreat 17,000 years ago, they moved. They did not wait for the interior path to open. The genetic data shows a rapid expansion south. We now know the exact speed of this migration. The distance from Alaska to the tip of Chile is about 15,000 kilometers. If humans moved at a rate of 10 to 20 kilometers per day, they could cover that distance in roughly 1,500 years. This matches the archaeological timeline perfectly. We find humans in Idaho 16,000 years ago, and in Chile 14,500 years ago. This speed is only possible by boat along a productive coastline. Walking through a glaciated interior would have taken much longer and required resources that did not exist. The pattern is now complete. The coastal route was the primary highway for the first Americans. The ice-free corridor was a late arrival route used thousands of years later. This discovery corrects the most popular misconception in American history. It proves that the first people here were not trapped by land. They were masters of the ocean. Authority for these findings comes from the highest levels of the scientific establishment. Major studies published in journals like Nature and Science have verified these dates. Teams from the University of Oregon, Texas A&M, and international labs in Germany have cross-verified the results. They used multiple dating methods, including radiocarbon and optically stimulated luminescence. Luminescence dating measures when a grain of sand was last exposed to sunlight. This allows scientists to date the soil itself, not just the bones within it. When both the bones and the soil give the same date, the evidence becomes irrefutable. At Rimrock Draw in Oregon, both methods confirmed a human presence 18,000 years ago. This is now the oldest confirmed site in the United States. It sits 5,000 years before the old Clovis first deadline. The methodology behind these discoveries is transparent and rigorous. To extract DNA from 15,000-year-old samples, scientists drill into tooth enamel. Enamel is the hardest substance in the human body and protects DNA from environmental decay. They then use mass spectrometry to sequence the genetic code. This process allows them to compare ancient sequences to modern ones with 99.9% accuracy. They are looking for specific mutations that act as timestamps. Because these mutations happen at a steady rate, scientists can work backward to find the common ancestor. The math is settled. The data shows that a small population of about 10,000 people survived a massive genetic bottleneck in Beringia. They were the survivors of a harsh environment. Your own DNA likely carries traces of similar ancient bottlenecks where human populations nearly vanished. These people were the ones who made it through. The definitive proof came from the lack of corridor ghost DNA. If the first humans had come through the interior corridor, they would have left a specific genetic trail. They would have stayed isolated from the coastal groups for thousands of years. We would see two distinct genetic lineages in the south, one from the coast and one from the interior. But we do not see that. Instead, every ancient genome found in South America matches the coastal Paleo-Indian lineage. There is no second group. This proves that the corridor did not contribute to the initial population of the southern continent. It arrived too late to the story. The interior path was only used by later groups who moved north from the south, reversing the old theory entirely. Clovis tools actually spread from the south to the north after 13,000 years ago. The arrow of migration has been flipped by the evidence. This discovery also involves the study of megafauna. Large animals like the Shasta ground sloth and the mastodon vanished shortly after humans arrived. For years, people believed humans hunted them to extinction immediately upon entering the corridor, but new evidence shows humans and megafauna lived together for over 2,000 years. At the Page-Ladson site in Florida, archaeologists found mastodon tusks with human butcher marks. These were dated to 14,150 years ago. This site is thousands of miles away from the Canadian ice. It proves that humans had already reached the east coast, while the ice-free corridor was still a frozen wall of ice. They moved around the edge of the continent and then spread inward along river systems. The extinction of these animals was a slow process caused by a combination of human pressure and rapid climate change, not a sudden blitzkrieg from the north. Now we can see the complete sequence of events. 25,000 years ago, humans in Siberia diverged from other Asian populations. 20,000 years ago, they were living in Beringia, the land between Russia and Alaska. 17,000 years ago, the glaciers on the Pacific coast began to melt, opening a narrow path. 16,000 years ago, humans reached Idaho and Oregon. 14,500 years ago, they reached the tip of South America. Finally, 13,000 years ago, the interior ice-free corridor opened, allowing a different group of people or a later wave of migration to move through the center of the continent. The timeline is now mapped without gaps. The chaos of conflicting dates has been replaced by a systematic progression. Every major site now fits into this coastal first framework. The smoking gun that locked this case was the discovery of human footprints at White Sands, New Mexico. In 2021, researchers found dozens of footprints preserved in ancient lake mud. They were not made by stone tools that could be moved by water. They were physical marks left by human feet. To date them, scientists used the seeds of an ancient ditch grass found inside the footprints. Radiocarbon dating of these seeds showed they were 21,000 to 23,000 years old. This date was so shocking that many scientists initially refused to believe it. They demanded more proof. The researchers returned and used a different method. They dated the pollen from trees that lived at the same time. The results were identical. 3 independent labs verified the same dates. Humans were in the American Southwest during the height of the last glacial maximum. This happened 8,000 years before Clovis. It proves that humans entered the Americas even earlier than we thought, likely during an earlier window of coastal opening. The existence of these people was a close-run thing. If the temperature had dropped just 2 more degrees during that era, the coastal path would have remained frozen. The small population in Alaska would have likely died out from isolation and lack of food. Without the specific ecology of the Pacific kelp forests, the migration would have failed. We are looking at a history of extreme survival. Only the unique conditions of the coastline allowed our species to claim a new hemisphere. This is your origin story as a member of the human race. It is a story of capability and technological adaptation. These people were using complex watercraft and navigating by the stars long before the first cities were built in the Middle East. Most people still think the Clovis hunters were the first Americans. Textbooks are often 20 years behind the latest research. You now know the real story before it becomes common knowledge. The debate that lasted for half a century is over. The Clovis first barrier has been broken by chemistry, genetics, and direct evidence. We no longer have to guess about the timing. We have the numbers, we have the DNA, we have the footprints in the mud. The mystery of how humans reached the Americas is no longer a mystery. It is a solved case. The pieces finally fit together into a single coherent picture. The evidence has settled this. The primary southward movement happened along Pacific routes before the interior corridor was viable. The ice-free corridor did not drive the first expansion. It was a secondary path. The chemistry of the bones proves they ate from the sea. The DNA proves when they split from their ancestors. The volcanic ash proves the age of their tools. Scientists have closed the case, and the question is answered. We now have the complete picture of the first Americans. The decades of ambiguity have been replaced by the certainty of data. We know who they were, when they arrived, and how they survived. The history of the Americas has been rewritten with ironclad evidence.